based upon the life that you live while you're alive, will determine if you're living a good life. You don't believe in cheating people in business. Okay, you believe in leading what any basic religion would call a righteous life. Okay.
But Mark, hold on, Mark. Let me challenge you on something. Okay, Mark, fine. Only one problem. You see, I got like 50 religions to choose from. I could be the Baha'i faith, who says that I have to do this, this, and this, otherwise I'm doomed. I could be a Muslim, but they said that I shouldn't believe in Jesus, and I have to use my works and go to Mecca one time a year and pray 3 times a day. Otherwise, I'll go to hell. The Jews, you see, they don't want me to be a Muslim, because if I become a Muslim, then I'm damned by God. And then the Christians, you see, Mark, they're saying that the faith of God is not of good works, it's of the gift of God alone. So which one do I choose, Mark? Do I choose the one that says you can't work towards heaven, or should I be the one that chooses work for heaven?
Well, by doing the good works and the good deeds, you have chosen. You've chosen.
But there are religions that disagree with that. So which one do I choose?
Well, you see, there I would argue. I mean, a righteous life is barring the terrorists of Islam, okay, who have their own beliefs.
There are good Muslims.
I know. Leading a righteous life.
There are good Muslims. So should I be a Muslim or should I be Jewish? Should I be Christian?
I think...
Wait, which one should I choose?
Well, I think that's really open to the person. Because, yes, you can be born...
Okay, so
you can be born...
Yeah, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't.
Well,
you see, if I become a Muslim, then I'm damned in some other religion. Mark, hold on. There's a philosophical error. We're breaking the law of non-contradiction. You can't... These religions all cannot be the true path. They can't be, Mark. Mark, listen. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. If you choose the wrong path, listen, this is what Jesus says, Mark. I'm not saying it. Jesus is saying it. He says, if you choose the wrong path, then you will be dead forever. You will be in a lake of fire and brimstone where you will suffer in the great hell forever that was created by God. But if I become something else, I might be saved, but I'm damned in someplace else. See, the problem with the theory that all roads lead to God is that none of the religions agree with each other. So you're stuck with the problem, damned if I do, damned if I don't theory. If I become a Muslim, I'm damned somewhere else. If I become a Catholic or a Christian or a Jew, I'm damned at somewhere else. That's not the question. It's not. Mark, listen, I realize people have a choice. But the question tonight that we have to answer is, which is the right choice? And now, the question is, to you guys, how do we know which one is right?
Well, doesn't it become...
Could it be Judaism?
Doesn't it become...
Could it be Muslim?
The right choice for you.
But Mark, do you know what the law of non-contradiction is?
I'm a bit confused.
Okay, law of non-contradiction. It's a law of logic. We use logic every day. You use logic. I use logic.
Right.
Sometimes Felix uses logic, but sometimes I think
not
Felix is on another
Not too
planet.
often. Not very often, though.
Felix tries not to.
I think he's on Mars most of the time. No, I'm kidding with you, Felix. I love you.
No,
buddy.
I'm actually on Pluto most of the time.
Felix is more from Venus. Women are from Venus. Men are from Venus. You know?
Oh, that's all right. I forgot about that. Now, listen, the law of non-contradiction is this. Opposite ideas cannot be true at the same time in the same sense. Mark, I guarantee you, you do not follow that. You do not break the law of non-contradiction. I guarantee you don't break it on your daily life. For instance, I'm a cleaner, so I got a bunch of stuff in front of me here. I'm holding a Times magazine in my hand. It's in my right hand. And I'm not holding a Times magazine in my right hand at the same time in the same sense. Now, if I were to ask you, does that make sense? You would say, no. You can't be holding a Times magazine in your right hand and not a Times magazine in your right hand at the same time.
Well, you see...
Now, what you're doing, Mark... Hold on, Mark. Let me get this out. So what you're doing by saying that all religions lead to God somehow is you are breaking that law of logic. You're saying it's okay to believe in a religion that says that if you believe in Jesus, you're damned. And you're saying it's also okay to believe in a religion where Jesus is God. Now, what you're going to do is end up confusing the heck out of people. And unfortunately today, that is the case. We just say, well, go do whatever you want. If you want to be a Muslim, be a Muslim. Just don't kill anyone. If you want to be a Jew, go be a Jew. If you want to be a Christian, a Catholic, a Baha'i, go nuts. But the problem is, one of those religions are saying, for instance, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. So now, let me ask you this question, Mark. If Jesus were having a conversation with us right now, would he think it's okay that somebody else go join another religion, or would he consider them damned?
I think one of the things that I come away with when I think about Jesus is that he was basically open-minded. He can show you, but the choice is yours.
Mark, he's objective. He was not subjective. He says that if you read Matthew 5 through 10, he plainly puts it. He forces people into making a decision. Look, wide is the gate that leads to destruction. Narrow is the path that leads to righteousness, and very few people find it. Those who have the Son, referring to himself, will have life. Those who do not have the Son, the light of life is not in them, and they are damned. He was very objective. It's either this or it's that, but it can't be both. In fact, he refers in Revelation to a church that was lukewarm, and he says, I wish you were hot or cold. Because you're lukewarm, I puke you out of my mouth. So Jesus is not subjective. He is objective. It's either this side or go to heaven, or it's this side or go to hell. The choice is up to you. But what you're saying, Mark, is you're sort of saying, well, Jesus, you're just one religious figure of many religious figures. And if somebody wants to be a Muslim, right? If somebody wants to be a Muslim, let them be a Muslim. If somebody wants to be a Jew, let them be a Jew. If somebody wants to be Baha'i, let them be Baha'i. But Jesus is saying, but no, Mark. You see, it's not up to man. It's up to God, because he's the creator of the universe. And if he created a universe, then he gets to say what is the rules. He sent his son Jesus 2,000 years ago to die on the cross for the substitution for your sin. You should be the one on the cross because of our sin nature. But because he was kind and merciful, he died on the cross on our behalf, therefore imputing righteousness into the believer. In other words, he put his goodness into the person who repents and puts their trust in him. Now, that's either true or it's false. But it can't be both along with everybody else.
Do you remember the Nag Hammadi papers that were discovered? Okay, because according to the Nag Hammadi, when Jesus was on his way to the cross, obviously he could not carry the cross himself, and the Romans appointed somebody to help him, and this person happened to look a hell of a lot like Jesus. Okay, to the point where, and now here's where it becomes very iffy. Jesus realizes this, and he says, hey, this guy can die in my place. And thus what he's doing...
You don't believe this, or is this some kind of...
It happens to be one of the explanations that were given, okay, that obviously the church does not agree with. Most people don't agree with it. Okay.
I don't agree with this.
But
for the record.
but it is a possibility. And that's why they say when Jesus rose from the dead, it's because he was never dead to begin with. Okay? That he was, along with the Passover plot, he was almost playing a role. He was...
Have you been watching Nova again?
No, wait. As a prophet, okay, he was well aware of Isaiah and Ezekiel and all of the prophets from the Old Testament, and he knew, I guess, what we would call how to pull the greatest con game of all time. Okay, that he went along with all this. People were telling him he's the Son of God, he's this, he's that. Now, we have to understand as 21st century people that back in the day, performing miracles was not a big deal. A lot of people perform miracles, whatever you would want to call a miracle. Okay? So, performing a miracle...
I disagree. I think they were incredibly rare, and they came in bunches. I mean, look at the Old Testament prophets. How did you know they were prophets? They knew they were prophets from God when they were able to do miraculous things, or when God delivered signs on the people. So, like, let's say Hosea and I'll just pick a few, even Elijah. When Elijah went to the king and Queen Jezebel, he was strong in faith. So he said to them, look, go get your prophets of Baal, go bring them out, and I'm going to show you which God exists. So here are the prophets of Baal. They're all doing their little ritual dancing. And here's Elijah going, come on, where's the fire from heaven? They got this big altar with all this meat on it. And they were supposed to call fire down from heaven to cook that meat. So what Elijah did is he stopped them. They went all day. They were finally tired, and they couldn't get fire to come down from heaven because Baal does not exist. So he decided to call on God, and God from the Bible. And here's God. He calls God fire from heaven, and not only did God consume the meat on the altar, but he consumed the water and the altar itself. So the prophets of the Old Testament were there to not only deliver a message, but to validate God's message by the use of miracles. Miraculous things happened with Moses, Abraham, Noah, you name it. I mean, almost every prophet had some miraculous thing. But when you get to Jesus, it becomes incredibly unique because Jesus was doing things that no other person in history has ever done. For instance, he was able to walk on water. He had control of nature. He was able to raise people from the dead. He had control over death. He had control over the weather. He had control over sin. He had the power to forgive sin and blindness and sickness.
All of those things that you explain, modern-day science has a way of explaining them away. Now, at the time...
Yeah, but they maybe do, but nobody can make a new eye. Now, they may be able to put computerized things together, but what Jesus did was made a real eye. A blind man has no eyes. A deaf man has no eardrum to hear from. God, Jesus, God in flesh, created those things by his miraculous, because he's a creator. And actually Colossians 1 and Hebrews 1 tells us that Jesus is the likeness of God. He is the exact representation of God. He's also had his hand involved in creation. So you got the triune God, you have miracles, you have creation, and Jesus displays that.
Then why all the hullabaloo about what Jesus actually looked like? I mean, if
what do you mean?
Well, if you take, somebody from that region during that time period, Jesus certainly did not have blue eyes and light skin. Jesus had to have probably...
Oh, well, Mark, you're not talking about artwork that people have tried to portray over the years. That's just artwork, And yeah, Jesus didn't have blue hair and blonde hair and blue eyes. He probably dark-skinned. He was probably like an olive complexion color, and a lot like what people used to look like in the Middle East. I mean, even today, go to the Middle East, check it out. Look at Jews who lived in Israel for a long time.
Then why?
Born there.